Hi everyone, it's Derek from At the Edge of the Woods. In this video we're going to show the beginnings of building our own chicken run to accommodate our little flock of 4 birds. We debated over getting a pre-made run, having someone build one for us, or doing it ourselves. Ultimately we decided to do it ourselves so we could save a little bit of money, as the chicken coop was pretty expensive. Also, many of the pre-made runs are short, maybe like 4 or 5 feet tall, and we wanted to be able to get into our run without having to crouch, so we want to make sure it's tall enough for us. Our run will be about 6 feet tall and have a gentle sloping roof so we can capture rainwater through the rain barrel. Our run will also be about 7.5 feet wide by about 15.5 feet long. We're using the 6 panels to assemble this run, and I'm building them by placing studs 18 inches apart. Specifically 18 inches because the hardware cloth that we're going to use to cover the run is 36 inches wide, so we'll be able to place one sheet of hardware cloth for every 2 studs. The panel on the front of the run will be where the door goes, so the dimensions are a little bit different but pretty close. I cut all the studs and attached them to a treated 2x4 which will be on the ground, and then attached another 2x4 across the top. Cindy and I dug out some dirt and used some scrap 2x4s to level out the run. We will be adding some gravel, sand, and brick later to take place of the 2x4s, as they will rot because they are not pressure treated, at least the ones we're using to currently level it out. We started putting the panels together and it went together pretty well. We started putting the front panel on and Cindy realized that we needed to put the coop into the run first because it won't fit through the door. So that was a good catch on her part. We took the front panel off and went and got the coop. We initially planned the coop to be in a different area, and so I had to go over and grab it. We just got the wheels for the coop, and I'm glad they came because this thing is kind of an awkward size and it was so much easier to roll it, even though I still had a little bit of trouble. Once the coop was in the run, we did finish attaching the front panel. We still need to get the door, roof, and hardware cloth put on, but that'll have to be in a video in the future. We will be putting 1/2 inch hardware cloth around the outside and buried under the ground a little bit as well. The goal is to prevent rodents and other animals from getting into the run whenever possible. Over the top, we will use 2-inch poultry netting since it's also going to have a roof, so we didn't really feel the need to go as small of holes on the top there. Thanks for watching, and we'll have an update soon when we're able to get the rest of this run completed. Thanks. It's Derek from At the Edge of the Woods. In this video, we are working on our chicken run. We went to the hardware store and picked up some bricks, sand, and gravel to help level out the run. Up until this point, we were using some 2x4s under the frame to keep it level. We are replacing those with bricks. After getting it pretty much leveled out, we started working on the hardware cloth that will be buried under the run. We are attaching hardware cloth to the bottom of the run and having it extend out about a foot. Then we'll bury it under sand, dirt, and gravel. This is to prevent any critters from being able to dig under the run. We're trying to keep out raccoons and other animals. At the end of the day, we had a little sand left over, so we started a path towards the house. You may notice that we don't use weed block or weed fabric. That's just our preference. I cannot stand to work with that stuff. If you ever have to dig it up, it's just a pain in the butt. So we don't use it, and we deal with the weeds and the other things that grow up. Thank you for watching this episode of At the Edge of the Woods. To our new subscribers, thank you. I hope you are enjoying our content. Thanks, everyone. Hey everyone, it's Derek from At the Edge of the Woods. In this week's video, we're going to continue putting together our chicken run, primarily focusing on putting on the hardware cloth that goes around the outside and underneath. So we bought this hardware cloth. It is 1/2 inch, I believe, size, so it has pretty fine holes, and it's black poly-coated metal, so it is really easy to see through. As you can see when we're putting it up, you can barely even see that it's on there. So that helps us see into the chicken run a little bit easier. When we had our previous house and our old chicken run, we had a different type of hardware cloth. It was just the galvanized, and it was hard to see through. So the black mesh, so much easier to see through. Highly recommend if you're going to be putting together any kind of chicken run. And in this video, we just really focus on putting down the hardware cloth underneath the ground, so we go all the way around the base of the run, putting hardware cloth 12 to 14 inches on the ground, and then we're going to cover it up so that way, again, it helps prevent predators from getting into the run, digging underneath. And then we put the hardware cloth all the way around the entire outside of the run and measure up for the door. So the hardware cloth goes completely around the walls of the run, and I think eventually we're going to go put it on the top as well, so that will help keep predators from coming in from any side. So that's what we got this week on the video. Hope you guys enjoy. Hope you're liking seeing this chicken run come together, and hopefully we'll have it done here soon. Thank you. Hi everyone, it's Derek from At the Edge of the Woods, and in this video we're going to continue working on our chicken run. This time we're adding cross beams across the top of the chicken run so that we can attach some hardware cloth. The goal of the hardware cloth is to keep the airborne or climbing predators and pests out of the chicken run. Things like possums, raccoon, birds, we want to try and keep them out of the chicken run just to keep them as safe as possible and to ensure that we don't have any issues. While we were doing this, Cindy was staining several of the cross beams since they may end up getting wet. Our goal ultimately is to get a roof put on, but that still will take some time and be probably something we do later in the summer. Unfortunately, the run is not perfectly square. That's my fault for not measuring it correctly the first time. So when we went to put some of the cross beams up, they didn't quite fit and we had to recut some of them. Unfortunately, we didn't get video of that, but we did get the video covering us putting the hardware cloth across the top of the run. While I did measure the cross beams to be 3 feet wide and bought the hardware cloth to be also 3 feet wide, attaching it and putting up did pose quite a challenge. Ultimately, Cindy and I were able to get through it. I did have to do a little climbing on top, but we were able to make it work, and I am pretty happy with the results. The next phase of putting this run together is actually putting the roof on, which hopefully we'll get to soon, but otherwise we're really happy with the way the chicken coop and run have turned out, and the chickens do seem to be enjoying it at this time. They're living out there full time, and I hope that we'll have some more videos here really soon about the chickens. Thanks everyone. It's Derek from At the Edge of the Woods. In this video, we're putting up some trim on our chicken run, and we're finishing installing the front door. On the front door, we had to add an extra trim piece, and after that, we added a barrel bolt on the top and on the bottom, as well as a latch on the handle in the middle. Added this just for extra security. We want to make sure that nothing's able to pry open the door and climb in, or for the chickens to push out. Not that the chickens generally push on anything too hard, but we just wanted to make sure we had extra security. So we installed barrel bolts on the top and bottom, pretty simple, and then a latch in the middle of the door that we can use kind of as a handle. On the inside of the door, not pictured here in this video, we did also attach a handle so we can close the door from the inside. So when we're working with the chickens, cleaning the coop, or giving them food or water, or doing anything else in there, we're able to close that door from the inside. And it's got enough of a pressure fit that it doesn't swing open. And because chickens don't really push the limits with these things, they're not going to push the door open and get out. After finishing the front door, we start adding the trim that goes around the outside of the coop. We bought fence pickets, the 6-foot tall cedar fence pickets, and use those on the front of the coop with their full width. This gives a nice finished look, I think. I think it looks really good. And then around the sides and the back, we actually rip the fence pickets in half so that we can use them a little bit more than having to just buy extra fence pickets. This helps give us some more coverage with saving some money. And since it's the sides and the backs, not too worried about the aesthetics as much. On the right side of the coop, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a tree growing right next to the coop, which did make it a little bit difficult to attach a couple pieces of trim, but we'll make it work. And then at the end of this video, we're actually going to move the chickens from the garage out into the coop and have them live out there full time. Very excited to finally get them moved out, as they've been taking up space in the garage, and they're going from living on something about the size of a door to having this large, about 8 by 16 square foot living area. And so they're going to really have a big world compared to what they had in the garage. So all in all, not too bad for a day's work here to get the trim cut and put up and get the chickens moved out. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this video, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you. Hey everyone, it's Derek from At the Edge of the Woods, and today I'm going to be working on the roof of our chicken run. It turns out that the other day we had a pretty significant and unseasonably normal rainstorm, so we threw a tarp up over the chicken run, but it did cause a little bit of damage. So I'm going to have to get working on the roof so that when it rains in the future, we don't run into this. So we had put a tarp up, and part of what happened is the tarp collected water. I'm trying to show here. I've already got most of it off, but it's pretty heavy, and then it popped a bunch of the staples we had on the hardware cloth. So it's not really going to work for us. So what we're going to do is put together a plastic roof with some plastic sheeting that I got from my parents. Put that up over the top here, and then take the tarp down. And then in between that, go ahead and restaple the hardware cloth. Make sure there's some protection. So that's what today's plan is. Chickens are in here. They're about 3 months old now. I'm not sure what they found, but seem to enjoy it. They really do enjoy kale as a snack, so we sometimes will put some in here. And we've got mealworms. They do love mealworms, so that's what a good treat is every once in a while. So anyway, I'm going to get started on putting together the roof for this. I don't know that we're going to cover it all the way, because I do like the fact that there can be a little bit of rain in there. Keeps things from drying out too much. So I think we'll at least do a roof from the front to about the halfway point, maybe a little bit more. We'll see exactly how much roof I can get put together. So that's what we're going to be doing this time. Now, before I put the roof on, I need to put an extra 2x4 on the front or left side of this run, so that from the left side to the right side it will have a slope, so that when it rains I can attach the gutter and collect the rain into a rain barrel. So now I'm going to put the 2x4 on, or two of them actually, from the front to the back, and then that'll help us make sure we have a good slope. I need 3-inch screws. I got 3-inch screws, but they're not self-threading, so now I'm gonna drill pilot holes so the wood doesn't split.